Okay, give this a second. Good morning, everyone. Just give me a second to get set up. Want to make sure everything's working fine for you. Alright, gonna check the volume on Twitch, make sure I can hear myself. So it might sound double audio for a little bit. Get this configured properly. Yep, okay, perfect. That's working alright. So Twitch is set. Let's check it out on Facebook. Okay. Okay. Nope, that is an older one. Let's double check this out. Technical issues this morning. Happy Labor Day, everyone. That's in the States, anyways. Give me like a minute to just get all set up. Okay, I can't really log on to Facebook right now, so anyone who has a question, just type it into the Twitch stream, and I'll answer it there. Strange. Alright, doesn't matter. I'm going to get started. Let's also double check this webcam is working, because it's not, it's being weird. Let's see, let me add a video capture device for the Logitech webcam. It's not showing up either. Great. All sorts of weird stuff happening this morning. Okay, so I'm going to use a little, strangely enough, I'm going to use a webcam software little thing, pop-up window, in order to show you this, because OBS Viewer, for some reason, is not letting me show my webcam. Strange. Alright, so I may need to restart or something like that. I'm not going to do that right now. Let's just get into this, because I know you guys on Twitch can hear me, and Facebook, and streaming on ZBrushLIVE. My name is Aiman Akhtar. I'm a 3D artist in Los Angeles, and I have been doing a lot of 3D printing in the past 4 years. And so, alright, and so I have a lot of experience in this topic, and I'm, sharing it with you guys in my stream weekly, Mondays at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time. And you can learn more about my work at my website, aiman3d.com. I'm launching my own blind box, mystery box toy set soon. And 3D printing helped me prototype and, make all these toys for mass production. Aside from that, I like to dress up my dog in all sorts of 3D printed fun stuff. And I've worked professionally on a lot of really big projects, like scale-wise. The Overwatch collectibles here with Alliance Studios, large-scale 3D prints my size, stop-motion animation 3D prints, 3D prints for vinyl toy prototyping, for concept art, really all over the place, and helping other individual artists bring their 2D designs to life in 3D. So anyways, you can learn more about my work there, aiman3d.com. Also, on Instagram as Akhtar3D. And so I share all sorts of photos here, but you can see a lot of the 3D printed projects I get involved in on my Instagram. And lastly, check out the Pixologic.com ZBrushLIVE Presenters tab here, and you can scroll down all these amazing teachers, and you can find mine, Aiman Akhtar, past broadcasts and schedules. So you can see for September, I'm signed on for 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Mondays, all the Mondays. And you can see some more of my artwork, and you can see all the previous streams that I've done with ZBrush over here. So a lot of what I do is create more of my own IP, the fungusaurs, little dinosaur mushroom hybrids. But aside from that, I've also done some 3D printing costume stuff for you guys. And over the past 3 weeks, I started doing these very large-scale prints, which you can kind of see brewing in the back behind me, right there. And so I'll zoom in on that and then show you very shortly. Okay, anyway, so over here on the Pixologic ZBrush Live site, you can play these older streams, and you can see how I made this mini, made this character. And so this character is from a site called HeroForge.com. That's a place that I'm currently employed. Show you that as well. And HeroForge is a custom miniature creator that lets you basically design your character in 3D. You can choose your race, you can choose your size and scale, you can deck out whatever outfit you want, and you can choose your poses as well as your gear. So really customize it to your heart's content. Even put them on a mount if you'd like. And what happens with these guys is you can send them out to get 3D printed and send back to you. And so it's an entire business built around the 3D printing infrastructure and system. So what you can also do is, log in, set up an account, and you can download this model and print it at home. And so that's what I did back here. I downloaded the model, threw it in ZBrush, and then I showed you guys how I go about editing a model. And this applies to models you find on Pinshape, on Thingiverse, really any model you can get access to, how to clean it up properly. So if you want to watch that, you can go into my previous stream, and I talk about hollowing, I talk about dynameshing, and just refining details from inside out, polishing it out, and then, hiding, basically getting everything ready to print. And I go through the process of prepping it to print on ideaMaker. This is a print prep software for the Raise3D M2 Plus. That's what I use to print this bad boy. And this printed at 16 inches height. And so you can see it's a big print. Alright, I'm going to stop going through this video, and you guys can look through that yourself. But now it's actually printed, and it's behind me. So today I'll show you guys in my show and tell portion of this Q&A, of this stream, how I extract giant prints like that from the build platform. Alright. Scroll up here. I'm going to play this video on my Instagram. You can get an idea of what it looked like while it was printing. Get that out of the way. Alright, so let's transition over to this webcam stuff. And it's not letting me pull up the webcam like it normally does in my device viewer in my OBS, which is the software I use to stream for you guys. It's normally set up and I don't need to mess with it. For some reason the video capture devices aren't showing up. I may need to restart in order for that to work properly. Let's try removing them and putting them back on. And hopefully that fixes it. Add a video capture device. There we go, Logitech. Aha, fixed it. Sweet. Okay, so now that we're ready to do this, let me double check you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. None of those. Aha, this one. Perfect. Okay, so now I can see on Twitch you guys are seeing what I'm seeing. None of those. And you can hear me. Perfect. So, now that we've got a giant webcam, I can show you how I go about extracting a giant print like this. So let me aim it properly. Move some stuff off my desk. And let's see. The easiest way is to maybe block the view a little bit so you guys can see what's happening with this guy. I'm going to need a few tools. But first things first, I want to extract the print from the printer. So it's relatively simple. I got to take it out of the printer before I can remove it from the print bed. So this is a big print. I'm going to start by just opening the door and removing little clamps I've got. So I've got these little clamps, this and a few other kind of clamps that are holding the print bed to the printer. So first thing I'm going to do is just remove those clamps. I got some of these guys from Home Depot, and they're pretty good at holding, you know, small things together. Okay. So that's all the clamps removed. We've got like 4 different clamps that hold the print build tray in the printer. Just to have a better look at this, I can remove the top of the printer as well. Might need to shuffle it out a little bit. Let's see. It's heavy. With the clamps removed, it should just slide out. You can close this door. And voila, look at this bad boy. It's kind of nice to like pose for it with the selfie kind of thing. This print just finished up yesterday. I think this morning actually. After, I believe it was 80 hours or 90 hours that the whole print took, about almost a little more than 2 days to complete. And so this guy is still stuck to the build tray. You can see I can hold it upside down and it's not coming off the build tray. So the first thing we need to do is extract it from the build tray, and then I can show you guys a bit of a closer look. In order to do that, I've just put it on the table in front of me. And I can use a few different tools. I've got a spatula, and I've got a, I don't know what this thing is called, a clipper. A modeling clipper is what this thing is called. And I can use these to kind of just get under the print and pry it off the printer tray. So let's see if that works. This is a big print for sure, so it's not going to be that straightforward. That's working. I basically just stuck this spatula under the print and pried a little bit, and the whole thing kind of just popped off. So that worked. Quick and painless. One of the reasons I like FDM 3D printing is that the cleanup can be pretty minimal. Alright, so what happened here is that the bottom of the print which is kind of a scaffolding right now. It's attached to the print, and we also have supports. So you can see little supports here and there, which we can also just kind of rip off. They come off pretty easily. So step one in cleanup for a print like this is just removing the supports that were generated in order to hold up some of the additional parts. So I can kind of just crunch them off. They shouldn't give me too much resistance. Now ideally you don't need to rip all of these off. You could actually go in with your modeling clippers and, you know, clip them off if you want to be careful. But this is a PLA print, and I know it's pretty dense, and I was pretty conservative with the thickness, so I'm not too worried about damaging it. So just taking off all these supports that I generated. Not that many supports because this is a pretty blocky model, and I made sure that it's building kind of up like a pyramid. So if I show you with my hands, what I mean is kind of like this. When you print from a large base upwards smaller, you don't need a lot of supports. Alright, supports pretty much removed already. These did not use much in the way of supports. I can show you guys in my hands. That's it. That's it for the support material on this guy. So I didn't really waste too much support material. And the support material, see here, it prints in an interesting kind of crisscross way. It's kind of like a fan or an accordion. You see that? And so it actually doesn't use that much plastic because it's printing, you know, kind of like this. Alright, the other thing is this bottom part of the scaffolding. I'm just going to peel that off. Here we are. So that's the part that first prints onto the printer, and then everything else fits on top of it. So the top of it, you can tell, is pretty smooth. The bottom of it that attaches to the build tray looks like that. Alright, and so now the bottom of our print is nice and smooth as well. Okay, so with that done, the next step for cleaning up a print, or just, you know, the part and parcel of, you know, working with these guys in FDM printing, is cleaning up some of these areas that get a little bit janky. And you may be asking, why do some areas get a little bit janky? These areas where you can see a little bit of fraying, I guess is the term I want to use, they didn't have any support. And so even if they did have support, the support didn't stick or it didn't stay. And so it generated, it was printing almost completely horizontally up in the air. And so this area first, it just starts to create, you know, nothingness, just this jangled mess. And then on top of that jangled mess, it starts printing actual material because it finally gets some support from the jangling. So what I want to do is come in here with my modeling clippers and then just clip any of this nonsense. So funny, this is such a big print to hold it upside down and do this. And I wouldn't really do it normally, holding it in this weird position. But camera's right here, so usually I have a table back there to do this on. Hope you guys can see it alright in black. Maybe next time I should print it in like a light blue or gray material so you can see more of the details. But I kind of wanted to try out this black PLA from Hatchbox. Some more of that fraying right there. Anytime there's a ledge, you can tell this ledge isn't that much of a ledge. But anytime there's a ledge that's printing almost completely horizontal without supports, you're going to see fraying at the bottom of FDM print. Okay. All right, so I'm getting some questions. Tim the Ancient saying, I might have missed it, but why did you go with printing on a raft instead of right on the surface? So it's a default option in ideaMaker to print on a raft, and it provides extra stability to adhere the print to the build tray. Now this isn't a big deal for FDM as much when you're printing in PLA, because PLA tends to stick and stays consistent. It has a higher melting point. And so what that means is, no, it has a lower melting point. So what that means is that it actually doesn't cool down very quickly. Once the print material comes out of the extruder, it stays warm, so it stays adhered. And you can add more layers on top of it, and they adhere, and they stick very well to the build tray. But if you're printing in ABS plastic, you definitely need a raft in order to give the print something to adhere to, because the ABS has a higher print temperature. I tried printing this in ABS before, but you need a much higher temperature in the printer consistently. So you need to leave the printer running for like an hour or something before you even start printing. Otherwise, and you need to keep it closed. So you need to put the plexiglass on top and close all the doors so that the internal temperature is maintained at a higher rate. There's basically a lot of extra stuff to say. I prefer to printing with rafts on. There's no real, correct answer as to why you would print a certain way, but I prefer to print with the rafts on. All right, so King Sees Lux is saying, how about copyright stuff? Do you handle this? I'm not copywriting anything. This is a print that's downloaded from a site, and I've adjusted it in ZBrush, and I showed you the process of cleaning up a model in ZBrush, and this is not really my model. I see it as partially my model because I customized it on the Hero Forge site, and then I prepped it for print. And I'm just showing you this because I prep a lot of models for print, not just for FDM, but also for SLA, for the Form 2 printer I've got. That's a lot of my business, is preparing other people's prints, and it's a bit of a process. It's not straightforward. I see there's some more supports here under the arm that I missed because it's a black print. I'm just going to rip these off too. There we go. Come off pretty quickly. So here's the whole print in its glory. And I'm probably going to keep cleaning it up a little bit. It's got a lot of these little janky bits at the bottom. Let's see. All right, people are asking, what is the build plate sheet that was attached with clips? So let me show you that. So this is the Raise3D N2 Plus, and it comes with this build tack sheet. It's kind of glass. It's basically, if you look at the other side of it, it's glass. And it's got this coating covering which is designed for prints to adhere to them really well. And this is basically our build tray or build platform that the extruder puts the material on, and it adheres to it, and then it builds up on top of it. And so with this printer, basically the print, depending on its height, will just lower the build tray, and the extruder stays in the same place. So this thing is adhered with clamps onto the bottom of the printer. There's a little platform to mount it onto, and then everything else builds on top of it. I can put this back in the printer now. And I'll secure it with the clamps later. I don't know if it's a Teflon sheet. Maybe. I mean, it's definitely some sort of glass. Let's see. What layer height did you print it? It looks like it has a great finish. So actually, I can show you guys the scene. This does not have the nicest finish. It's the fastest speed with the lowest resolution on the Raise3D N2 Plus. And I want to say that FDM printers in general are getting better and better every year with technology just becoming easier to deal with them. And what's happening as a result of that is they figure out better nozzles, they figure out better how to make these smoother. And so I'd say the finest settings on a Raise3D N2 Plus compare with the 100 micron setting on a Form 2 now, which is a lot, because that's a resin printer with a lot of detail, and this is an FDM printer, which is basically a glorified glue gun with a fishing reel spool line. And to see that it's getting this almost the same detail is, for 100 micron level. Form 2 can definitely still go much finer detail, but to see that at a base it's getting a lot of the similar kind of finish is huge, because this print is very cheap. I think it cost me about, I'd say $30 to $35 to print this whole thing. And if I did this kind of print in the Form 2, because of the smaller build volume, I'd need to divide it up into probably I'd say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16 pieces. I need to print this in 16 pieces in the Form 2, but I printed this in one piece in the Raise3D N2 Plus without any kind of weird complex keying or slicing. Just printed in one go. And with the Form 2, this much material used, it probably would have been a $200 to $300 print just for my cost. If I did this kind of print for a client on a Form 2, I would charge at least $600-700 bucks. So anyways, that's why I like the FTM, prototyping and finish. It's really come a long way. Preserves a lot of the details too. All right, I'm going to put this back here for a second. My little guardian. Put the cover back on. Kind of like that. You can stand guard over my desk back there. Get my keyboard back. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a very, very quick and simple print extraction from a Raise3D N2 Plus. And the good thing about FDM is there's really no cleanup. You take it out of the printer and you remove the supports and you clip a bit of these ends off, and that's it. You're ready to print again. I'm going to put these clamps over here in the back. And now I got ideaMaker open, which is Raise3D's print prep software. So I'm going to open the idea file in which I prepared that dwarf warlock print. Alright, the stream title does need updating. It's still saying sculpting VR positivity. I'm not Anna Carolina Pereira. My name is Aiman, and I think it's Labor Day today, so we can cut ZBrush some slack. Let's see. Yeah, like I said, if you want to see more of my stuff, it's on here as Pixologic.com, ZBrushLIVE, author Aiman Akhtar. And you can see all of my 3D printing stuff for ZBrush artists. 3D printing in ZBrush, ideas to reality. Anna needs a shave. Yeah, I guess I could too. I'm too lazy, man. Every time someone asks a guy, how come you're growing your beard? It's laziness, 100% of the time. Okay, here we go. You can see the character now, how it was prepared for print. It was prepared straight up vertically, 16 inches tall, and that's not even the full length of the build, I can do in this printer. I can do up to 24 inches because the build dimensions here are 12 inches by 12 inches by 24 inches. So I wanted to do the biggest print I possibly could, but this dwarf is just way too stocky. He's just too big of a character. So maybe I'll print an elf or something like that all the way up to the top, because I want to see exactly how tall I can get with this printer. And when I print it, you can see down here, it didn't put the raft on by default. That's something that happens when you start the processing. The supports I added manually, and you can watch the previous video to see how I go about adding supports. It's pretty simple. You just go to the support tab here, pick the size you want, click add, and then you can tap them where you want. Alright, so in order to print this, you have to basically go to start, and you can set the quality and speed. So I went with the speed setting. High quality would have taken, I'd say, probably twice as long to print, and it would have given me an even smoother finish. But I just wanted to get this done, so I went with speed, and you can just click on speed settings, and you can see the infill density, the shells. If you do want to add the raft or not, you can choose. You can even add a brim only or just a raft with brim. And I just went with raft, and all supports on, and slice. So I'll let this run again so I can show you guys a recap of how it would take to print it. Alright, Marcel Prunaru is asking, what SLA printer do you have in your back? So I've got two printers personally at home. One is the Form 2's SLA printer, Formlabs Form 2. And then I've got the FDM printer, which is Raise3D's N2 Plus. Now the SLA that I use, I mean, I'm really happy with it. I'm wearing a Formlabs shirt right now because I really like this company. They've got really good customer support. They've got a really good, if something breaks on your printer, you can call them and say something's broken or what's wrong, and they can really help you troubleshoot. And that's really important with the printer, especially printing companies. They come and go. There's so many of them. And the N2 Plus with the Raise, I've got it because of the size. It's about the same price range. It's $3,500 for both of these guys. And for the same price, it gives me a lot of bang for my buck. It's just a much bigger print volume. And so I get to prototype on this. I get to really design and not care about cost being so high for the material. And for this one, I get to print the really fine detailed stuff. Any prototypes that I do that get sent for toy prototyping manufacture, I do on the Form 2. Okay. My friend just sent me a print that he just did on the Mimaki 3D printer, which is a color 3D printer. And you can see this print is about, I don't know, I'll make this view a little bit more bigger so you can see. I've done a few friends with my friend Nick here, who's based in Vegas, and he's got a Mimaki color printer. He's got a couple of them that can print in color, and so the detail is stunning on these color printers. It's almost getting there, guys. Say maybe like next year we'll have another, couple of really big color printers on the market, and then, I mean, they'll be completely unaffordable, but eventually we're going to have color 3D printing like this accessible for us all. Probably is going to start with service bureaus, and it's going to take a little bit, but it's going to get there. I'm so excited about that. Okay, checking your questions on Twitch. And Labor Day, everyone's taking it easy today. I'm not taking it easy. Doing some labor. Labor of love. Yeah. This is the thing with labor of love. I shared this comic the day before about problem with doing what you love for a living is that people say you're lucky and that you'll never work in a day in your life, and it's like, no, shut up, listen. When you do a job, let's see, don't allow what? No push notification. When you do a job that's just a job, sure, you work 40 to 50 hours a week, but here's the thing. When those hours are over, you get to stop working. And he goes on to basically say that, you love your job, but you basically do it all the damn time. I'll post the link for you guys in the Twitch chat so you can read it yourself. That up. Got so many little tabs open. Alright, I'm going to combine some of these tabs on my second monitor so I can do this a bit easier for you guys. Alright, save that comic and or shared that comic. Osmose is saying, hopefully color printers come without everything being proprietary. Mimaki, $250,000 color printer. Great for home use. After you hit the lottery a second time. No, it's true, man. Almost all the printers start off in this kind of war of pricing, and they're way too damn expensive. And eventually what happens is they go from being professional service bureau level to being, you know, more and more companies start using the technology once the patents expire to build competing printers, and then the price starts lowering, becomes not industrial grade, it becomes professional grade, and then after a while it becomes personal grade. So it'll all start with service bureaus. No one can afford color 3D printing right now. Alright, so here's the FDM print sliced in Ultimaker. See, the estimated price is $38, and it says 87 hours to print this. It's estimated to use a little more than a liter, 1,268 grams of material. And so let's do a preview, and you can see what that print was all about. I mean, to be fair, FDM printing technology has been around for a while too. I think it started in the 80s, but it didn't really, you know, start picking up steam until the patents started expiring and people started building smaller, cheaper printers like the ripraps and stuff that started costing a couple $100s to build rather than MakerBot's, you know, monopoly on the market, which I think was $3,000 at the time for FDM printers. All right, so here's the model sliced and ready to print on the, you know, this is the G-code file that gets sent to the printer. Now, if I zoom in a lot, you can see here's the support structures that'll be generated, and you can see the crisscross and the line detail right there. And so that's one cool thing. Anywhere that you'll be printing horizontally, you can see that there's a stair-stepping effect that happens. And so this is where you lose the detail. In FDM prints in general, prints along the side of along the side, the prints will look really great. Anywhere you get to a very horizontal area at the tops, things are going to start not looking so great. So here you can see the detail starts to kind of fade when you get vertical, completely horizontal, you know, on a print. And I can show you what that looks like on the print itself, like right in that area. It might be a bit hard to see. Let me see if I can make this window a bit larger. So what we're looking for is that kind of island stuff happening, right? And if you look closely, right there, you can see the same island is there, like horizontally. So it's basically like, you know, what the detail you get and what you see in the software here is the detail you'll get in real life. And any of the artifacts that I had mentioned, they always tend to happen in unsupported areas that are relatively horizontal like this. Like that. Now it's nice when you can have it slowly build up from, you know, have a little bit of pyramid thing going on. Have some base under there to support it. That's why I built this character, you know, in such a stocky pose so that he would print very easily without any additional supports. But I'm pretty happy with how he turned out, and it's not that heavy because it was hollow. I can show you guys when I slice it on here what it looks like hollowed. So it's all kind of a crisscross meshing. So it doesn't actually use that much print material. All the inside is scaffolding. And so you can save a lot of material. Like this thing is not a solid print. It's, I'd say maybe like 3 pounds? Like, let me test that actually. I have a machine here that we can guess the weight, actually test the weight of it on. It's on the ground. Alright, here we go. Alright, that is 13 grams. Alright, so 1,013 grams. Let's do a little calculation. grams to pounds. Yeah, 2.23 pounds. So that's not big at all. I mean, not heavy at all. All right, so yeah, that was the basic prep and cleanup from a Raise3D N2 Plus, or in general, any FDM printer. This is kind of what it feels like. And you can see at the bottom, because I clicked on Raft, there's the Raft that it generates. The Raft is basically something that the print can adhere to, so you don't have to worry about it shifting or sliding. I have had printing in ABS, even with printing a Raft, I've had the whole Raft just move off the build tray. Like it just slides right off because the temperature isn't high enough. That's why I don't like printing in ABS a lot. But in any case, I'm happy to be done with that print because it was running for 3 days straight. Luckily, it's PLA. It smells kind of sweet, and I've got a pretty enclosed build printer, so you don't really get a lot of fumes. But it's nice to be done with it. It's a big guy. And I kind of want to start another really big print, like start like the full length of the build tray and see how big I can get. Might do a little bit more cleanup on it. I don't know if I'll get around to painting it, but I might. But I'm glad you guys were able to join me for the unboxing, so to speak, of that. I'm going to quit out of here. I don't need to export or save this G-code. All right, and then we're going to move on. We're done with the show and tell portion now. We'll move on to today's sculpt that we'll be doing on the stream. We'll answer any other questions you guys have. What do you think of the Anycubic Photon? It's about $390 to $400 price range for a DLP SLA printer. And Doug is asking you, smooth the layer lines using what technique? All right, so I can answer both those questions. First, let's look up the Anycubic Photon. I've heard a lot of good stuff about this printer. The price range is $519, which is not bad at all. There's a YouTube channel which reviews these, which I really like. It's called, let's see, Maker's Muse, I believe. Yeah, there you go, this dude. So he reviews these printers in a lot of detail, so you guys should definitely follow him. His YouTube channel has blown up a lot as of late, but it shows the printers from start to finish. I was watching his review for the Raise3D N2 Plus before I bought it as well. And you can see the detail is really comparable to a Formlabs right there. Like, that's a solid printer, the Anycubic, because I've seen this guy's recommendation on it before. I think it's definitely worth it, the price range, but he'll talk about the upsides and the downsides, having experienced it himself. I haven't experienced it myself, so I'm just going based off of recommendations of what other people have said. Since we're on the topic of printers, I can mention the ones that I do have, that I know that I can recommend, are the Raise3D N2 Plus, $3,500 price range, but you make up for it with the build volume, which is massive. It's also a dual extruder, so you can print multi-material. And the color touchscreen stuff, it's just very, how should I say this? It's very intuitive. And so it's very easy to work with it. And you can get, you know, like I said, really good quality out of it. The comparative printer is the MakerBot Z18, but it's just much bigger than that. And so for the same price, cheaper. So for the same price as a Form 2, you can get a lot of bang for your buck. The other printer I have is a Form 2, which is an industry leader in desktop SLA printing because it's so capable. It's such fine detail. The build volume is not that much. It's about 7 inches around, but you can get a lot of detail out of these guys. And they're workhorses. Like, I've been printing on this guy like 30 days in a row, and it prints out 30 good prints. It takes a while to learn how to print properly. You know, add the right orientation, add the right supports, the support scales and size. But I highly recommend the Form 2 if you want to get into detail printing. There's also a lot of materials. So let's see here. So you've got the standard resins that can print, you know, just about anything, but you like clear and gray. But they also have resins that can print in wax for jewelry or dentistry, and ceramics too. So those are the two that I can wholeheartedly recommend because I've used them to death. Since you guys are most often looking in a cheaper price range, I can mention Kickstarters because there's a couple of going on right now. There's the DAZ 3D Kickstarter going on right now, which is an LCD SLA printer, which I guess is a DLP printer. That's what I would call it, a DLP printer. But I guess they're trying to change up the name of the technology. It's an SLA printer that's on the market right now, I believe for $5.99. There's like 15 left at that price range. And I think at standard it's going to be about $1,000 with all the features built in. But it's got a pretty decent build volume. The company's legit. They've done another Kickstarter before and delivered to their audience. So I don't know. I'm hesitant to recommend Kickstarter printers because the company's not fully set up. The support structure is not fully set up. They may or may not have forums. And the printer, you might never get it. You know, that's the problem with Kickstartering printers and Kickstartering any product in general. The company could fold, or the CEO could just steal a lot of money and then never do anything with it. So I've been burnt on printers on Kickstarter before. Like I ordered the Tico 3D printer and nothing came of it. But we'll see. We'll see if I get a refund 3 years later here. All right, so there's another printer that's on the Kickstarter market right now, the SparkMaker, which is another SLA 3D printer. And this is what I was talking about with the Mimaki and color 3D printing too. Printing starts off being very expensive, industrial service bureau grade, and there's only a few companies in the game. They patent the technology and they ban everyone else from using it, and they sue anyone who tries to use it. It's a really horrible system for innovation. It prevents innovation. But, you know, you want to be a little bit capitalistic and let the people that came up with the technology get them their time to make the money off of it. But it's bad for us consumers and makers. Both these printers have already funded on Kickstarter, so you're getting onto a train that you can see their counter is going up. The SparkMaker FHD is another SLA printer, but you can see that the price range is very different. This one's $219 for the early bird, which has one left. $249 is their printing price, and it's a relatively small printer. You can see it's printing. The build volume is not that much. It's about the size of a phone these days. I think the idea with this is that it would print, very small prints, but it's ideal for printing minis. So if you get really into Hero Forge and making miniatures 3D prints, then it's ideal for you. It's a small, cheap price range, and it should deliver because of its size. So if it suits your needs, Marcel, yeah, go with something like this. However, keep in mind it'll still probably take a year, maybe a little bit more to get to you. If you order printers that exist, like the Raise3D or the Form 2s, they'll probably get to you within a month or less. Osmosa is saying the Prusa and Creality make some good, cheaper FDM style printers. Definitely. Let me see. I don't really want to look up every single printer, but I can look up printers 2018, 3D Hubs. Okay, so 3D Hubs is a website which every year they launch this 3D printer guide, which has the best printers for prosumers, workhorse, budget, plug-and-play, SLS. So if you go down to the budget section, you can see the printers they recommend and the score that's aggregated based on what users actually using this stuff. So the Creality here is the CR10. It's a very cheap printer that you can build yourself, $487. So it's very affordable now for FDM technology. Monoprice, I know a few people that have these, $220. So you can get printers now at a very cheap price range for FDM. And in about a couple of years, SLA will be this cheap to get and order on Amazon and get delivered to you as well. So it's getting there. It's getting there, and eventually color printing will get there too. Don't count on that for another 5 to 10 years. It'll probably stay Service Bureau, but it's getting there. Yeah, Tim the Ancient, another happy customer, is saying my CR10 has been a champ. All right, anyways, just wanted to talk about 3D printing for a while. Wanted to do a little show and tell, and I'm glad you guys liked the print that I did, the massive beast of a dwarf that's standing behind me. And now I'm going to move on to, done with the Q&A portion of this you know, it's almost been an hour. I like to do like a 2-hour stream every Monday morning for ZBrush, and I get into a bit of my 3D printing process. And so I did the show and tell, and now I'm going to do a little bit more sculpting for the character and the stuff that I'll be printing next. There's always a 3D print project going on for me. So the one I want to get back to, which I've been off for a while, is this character here. Let me turn the base on. You can see the full thing. It's a heavy file, so it might lag for you guys a little bit. But this is a character that I've been building. Do anti-aliasing. Looks a bit nicer for you. This is a character that I've been building for my Mold 3D class for 3D printing for ZBrush artists, which has been in hiatus for a little bit because I've been building the new class. And let me show you what this started off as. Zoom out a bit. Scroll down in my Instagram past all the other 3D printing projects to here, right there. Okay. All right. So my process for a lot of these projects that I do is I start with the technique I learned from Michael DeFeo and Shane Olson, which is to use very clean, simple primitives in order to start your print prep, or start your model, basically, your sculpting. So I start with really base shapes, like simple polygon primitives, spheres, and cubes that are appended on, and I get the basic block in of the character, and then I start individually sculpting each of those subtools and then get into it. So here's a bit of the detail pass when I get really into sculpting the hair detail with the damn standard brush, stuff like that. I do print testing at miniature scale, so this is printed about this small before I do any kind of big prints. Don't want to waste any material. I want to take a look at the pose in all its glory. Oh, okay, big. There we go. And here's kind of like the finished sculpt at the time. Trying to get a really dynamic pose, trying to get, you know, accurate to the concept that I found. Let me pull that up as well. So this is the concept by Nacho Subirats Morenes, I think. Anyways, Nacho Subirats. And I really love this concept. It's a roller derby girl. I think he did this for a character design challenge, but I really like the expression. I like the bigness of the character, the presence and personality, and just the dynamism of it. Like, it's just so dynamic. I like seeing characters that break the mold body proportion-wise, that aren't naturally just beautiful, but are much more interesting. That's the character part of it to me. And so based on his concept, I made this character that you can see over here. And obviously, I'm changing it up significantly from the concept. And I'm okay with that because this is a personal project. This is not a company's commission. This is a thing I'm doing for me and talking about style and how I go about things. So I was happy to change the way the eyes were, change the roundness of the face, because as a sculptor, that's your job. You have to translate. It's not just translate the, how should I say? It's not just a job 2D to 3D. You have to add your own style and flair and voice to the prints. That said, sometimes 2D just looks way more dynamic, much more appealing than the final 3D look. You can get away with a lot of stuff like having the legs be way too small compared to the body, which I can't do. I had to balance it out a little bit. You also have to think about engineering. When you're thinking about 3D printing something physical, it has to be possible to print. It can't be way too dynamic, which is why the back leg, for example, I lowered that in order to be able to give it 2 points to, of support on the ground rather than the 1. So things like that you have to consider when preparing for 3D print. Now, I don't know when I'm going to get this Mold 3D class done because I've got a lot of projects going on right now. And I've got a lot of, how should I say? Like, I've got to work on my Fungusaurus project right now in the game and the toys that I'm launching in November. So that's my priority. But I want to get this done as soon as I can. So here's a model that I prepped for just full print in the Raise3D N2 Plus. I tried to print it as big as I could, and I added some custom supports. The first print unsurprisingly just tanked because my supports at the bottom, my custom supports, were way too weak. So the custom supports fell over, and then the rest of it wasn't going to print, so I just stopped it. Then I finished it by adding, larger custom supports that would print flatter, and then it would be able to finish the print. And here's the finished print. The only thing that fell off was the arm, and then I re-epoxied that back on, and so that print is done. I can show you that right now too. All right. So here's this roller girl character. Make this window a bit bigger so you can see it. All right. So here's the roller girl character that was printed just flat. I didn't make any base. I just kind of did this simple oval base for it. But just to see what it would look like and, printed and at this scale. And it's a big scale, Printed that out. Character has a massive head, stocky body, short stubby legs. So it's not really the most appealing character by traditional standards of beauty, but it's supposed to be kind of like a dynamic, strong, fun character. So I really like the way it turned out. And the detail is really there for a FDM print, I'm pretty happy with how the detail looks on this character. A lot of the hair, too, was able to stand on its own and really reads really well. But now I'm looking to print this same character on my Form 2 SLA printer for the final kind of class lesson. And what I want to do is really go into slicing and keying and get into making it as best as it possibly can be. So I want to make it, push it a step further than this. So that's what I want to get into today. Okay, so let me shrink this back down. All right, so when I talk about slicing and keying a model for print, this kind of thing really helps you get the best possible orientation and supports and minimal damage to the print for each part of it. So you do have to slice and key your models, and I talk about this in my class, and I do it often. Printing in one part like this, for a really complex print, I don't recommend it, unless you have a print like the dwarf that I show up here, kind of pyramidic, kind of building from a big base to a small base. This kind of thing you can print in one go, but a complex character, I highly recommend slicing and keying. All right, so let me scroll back down. All right, so here's where we ended up with the final character key shot render. I haven't done any texturing as of yet. I just kind of threw on random colors and I rendered it in Keyshot to just get a quick look. But now that I've stepped away from a little bit, it's been almost, I think, a couple of months since I last looked at this. Now that I look back at it, I can really refine it and make it a bit better. So let's open it back in ZBrush. And I can think about how to improve the model, really improve the appeal of it, improve the dynamism, make it more like the concept or maybe less like the concept depending on if I can have some fun with it and make it better. So that's what I wanted to devote the next hour of this stream to. Glenniel is asking what filament did I use for the big prints, both of them. I use the same kind of filament, which is this guy right here. Let me make the window a bit bigger so you can see. All right, so this is Hatchbox PLA. They're not paying me to do this, guys. This is just the one that I like a lot. It's a bit more expensive. It's like 20, 25 bucks as opposed to you can get filaments for like 15 bucks or $10. What I like about this one is that the roll, it doesn't get entangled and it doesn't stop or snatch up. I don't know how to describe this. It doesn't get stuck with the filament kind of wrapping around itself and then getting stuck. So that's why I really like this one, Hatchbox PLA. 1.75 millimeters, the standard nozzle size for most FDM printing. All right. Whoa. Okay. Zasanaru Kitsuna says hi. Hi, how's it going, dude? All right. In 2 to 3 years, SLA, everybody. I think SLA is almost there. I mean, the Kickstarters are there right now, so maybe next year. All right. Cool, cool, cool. That's looking all good. All right, all is well there. All right. So, yeah, I'm on Twitch. If you guys have any questions, you can drop them there. Right now, what I want to do is kind of, you know, refine, improve this sculpt, add any elements that I feel like I should just play rather than get caught up in the details right now. So the first thing to do is think about how, you know, engineering wise, how I'm planning on doing this character. So what I'm thinking is, what I had in mind was that I would have it printed at a tilt, and I would run like a cylinder basically from top to bottom through the leg into the base, and that would give me the ability to have like a metal rod shoved from the base into the character, which would give it stability. Let's take a look if I did that in the leg. I'm not sure if I did. Yeah, I did. So here's the idea in any case. Hide half of it and see if we can see it. Here we go. So that was the idea, is that I printed, you know, this, at least the leg completely solid, and have a spot in there for a cylinder to key into, kind of just like a giant metal rod that would go into the leg in order to provide extra support, and then that would go right into the base. And then I have a key for the back of the leg as well, like a simple, what do you call it, tapered square key that would kind of just keep it in place. But the main mounting would be done through the base right here, and I can try to hide half of this to show you as well. Turn on my double-sided, and so basically hide, you know, have a cylinder like a metal rod sticking through the base up into the leg in order to do this print. That's why I can print it, or, you know, pose it at this angle. The cool thing about having this angle is I can think about, you know, making more dynamic from multiple sides, not just try to match the concept from one angle, but from, you know, make it more interesting from other angles as well. So the first thing I've done in order to think about, you know, playing with this now after coming back to this model after a little bit is I turned off the base, and then I clicked on Merge Visible, which is in the Subtool palette, Merge Visible. And what that does is it creates a new subtool with all the pieces merged together. And you can see this is 35 million polys. So it's a heavy, heavy mesh. So the first thing I wanted to do after that point was dynamesh it down to a more workable resolution. So just at the default 128 resolution, this comes out to about 2.6 million polys, which may still be a lot more than I need. Let's do it again. Let's duplicate the mesh so I have a backup. Let's come in here, do a little bit of smoothing. I just like to touch the model with the holding shift and smooth. And what that'll do is now it'll let me dynamesh. So I'll lower the resolution to, say, 64, and then let's dynamesh again. While this is dynameshing, Funky Turtle 13 is saying, are diecast molds a thing of the past now? Nope, definitely not. Molding and casting and die-cast molds are still very much in use professionally. I needed to injection mold all the toys that I'm mass producing because the technology to print them all and get them out there to people that are ordering on a per order basis is not there yet. The infrastructure isn't there yet. So maybe give that another 10 years. Alright, so this didn't Dynamesh for some reason. Drop my mask again. Dynamesh. Still coming up pretty high in resolution. Let's drop this down to 8. See what happens. Here we go. So now it's very, very little. Let's take it down to 50. Alright. So now I've got a workable resolution, 1.5 million polys. It's not actually that much detail here, you can tell. So now I can just move this model around freely. And I'm going to do a really shitty sculpting bit right now. I'm just going to kind of move this whole thing around. Just think about it, how I want to mess around with it. How, you know, the pose itself, the proportions, the structure, everything is fair game at this point. Let me bring the base back in because I want to have the base as well to think about. So I'll append the base in here. And let me go ahead and Dynamesh this as well. Geometry, Dynamesh. I don't know, let's go with 60. Because 1.2 million polys right now when it shrunk down a bit. That increased the pen. Wow. Alright, there we go. So 134,000, that's solid. It gives me a base to work with. And now I can think about how to make this a bit more of a fun sculpt. Next thing I'm going to do is probably toss this 35 million character from the scene just because it's too heavy. And I will probably close this, or I'll just delete all for the other model. And so I have a lighter ZBrush scene. Roller girl. How should I say this? Roller girl. Let's call it resculpt 1. Alright, I'm going to play some music while I do this. So it's not just me talking. I'm just going to grab my move brush and start moving things around. But you can see my brush doesn't actually get that big because the scene is pretty big. So what I want to do is shrink the whole scene down. Merge down. And I'm gonna go to my deformations tab. Bring the size down. Three times. And that just gives me the move size brush I want, and I can size up later. I'll do a group split. That should split the top and the bottom. And now I can work at this scale. So you can see just moving and grabbing tweaks it a lot. So I have to be a bit more selective. It's like my mask brush, mask lasso. Mask off only the areas I want to work on. control tapping here to smooth the mask, inverting it by control tapping outside, and I can use the rotate tools now as well. Smooth this mask a bit more. I'm thinking about just, you know, the look of it. Maybe it'll look better if the arm is higher. Feels better. Feels more dynamic to me. Looks like she's about to elbow someone in the face, so that's a bit scarier than just like the concept kind of like moving forward. So in the concept, her arm is a lot lower, but that's because her leg is up too. Since I've lowered the leg, I want to kind of have the arm go even higher upward and have an upward force to this rather than a straightforward force. Turn this wrist in a little bit too. I don't care if I'm breaking the anatomy right now because this isn't the final sculpt. This is just kind of me messing around and trying to figure out what I like. Definitely more dynamic like this. Kind of want to lead with the elbow, if I can, somehow. I like the sharp turn here. I was trying to think if bendy would look better, but no, sharp kind of works better for this. Yeah, the anatomy is totally busted, but it doesn't matter. Trying to blur my eyes and just look at the overall shapes. It's why it's best if you can figure out the pose at a very low resolution earlier on. Sometimes it just comes down to it, though, at the end, you're just not happy with it. You want to do something to make it better. Whatever I end up doing right now, I'll probably end up resculpting onto the high-res models. Let's see what happens if we move this back arm a bit too. Kind of maybe make it even higher. So right now, you have to get up and act it out. This character is moving like this. you know, leading with this foot. So what happens when this character's back arm can be even higher than it is right now? Let's see. If I'm moving the whole shoulder, technically I should be rotating from here. I'm just going to try this first. So even though this looks better from some angles, overall, I feel like it takes away from the strength of the piece because it's more coming from a small point here, coming up to a large point. So if anything, you should probably lower the arm even more. Maybe stick it out a bit. So yeah, that doesn't seem to be working very well. Maybe if I try just moving the middle of it up, kind of give it like a more coming to get you look. It'll be a bit better. Yeah, because now she looks like more aggressive, which is good. I'm gonna drop my mask and just sculpt freely because I need to move the whole shoulder area here, not just the arm. So by adding a kink in that elbow, now I've got a much more, like a stronger character, as opposed to having the straighter arm like it was before. The straighter arm improves dynamism, so it's dynamic, but this arm makes it more like aggressive. So I don't know. I'm gonna find like a happy medium of the two. Looking at the proportions, I could try changing things up as well. Maybe making these upper arms even larger. Kind of beefing up those shoulders. Make this character more like a truck that's about to come roll over you. And if I'm making that shoulder bigger, I should probably make this one bigger too. Even with stylized characters, I like bringing a bit of, realistic anatomy into the picture. Like here, for example, this is where the character's bicep and deltoid would meet. So I can actually bring that in a little bit. You can always remove it, but I like to over sculpt and then smooth. And even pinch. And then smooth possibly only on the one side. This adds a new dimension to it, Can't be afraid to just play around with your sculpts the way you need to in order to find them. If I were really over sculpting, I'd probably add like more detail as far as an anatomy detail goes, but that'll be just making her really muscular. Maybe that's what it needs. Maybe it needs a little bit more muscle love. I do like what happens when I give this character a bit more musculature. Then I got to fix the basic anatomy of it too. Over here is the brachioradialis, and it should be coming up and over the character. In this case, something like this. That's going to be hard to convey. And that might not actually be worth it to do that. But we'll see later. You can always smooth out detail that you don't want later. Got to give this sense that this shirt is really struggling to keep up with the forces being applied to it. That also makes it feel a bit more like fabric. And can't add too much. You got to be picky and choosy where you add that sharp detail. And don't want detail that mirrors itself. You don't want detail that looks the same. Turn RGB off when I use the clay brush. You guys have the same problem as me, just doing too many projects at the same time? Making too many commitments? I think we all have that problem. I was just talking to a friend about that yesterday. Having too many personal projects. And she's an animator and she does the same. I smooth out some of this detail, don't need that much. It's kind of nice to have a little bit though. Need more is just more inflation. Nah. 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 I kind of want to find like a good softness balance with this character. Let's mess with this hair a bit more. Make it even louder. So I'm going to use the snake hook brush and turn on my Sculptress Pro mode here. Because there's not really any strands coming off the back here. Let's try some. Let's try pulling some off. We want the hair to be going in this direction with the character. So it kind of, you know, emphasizes the fact that this character is moving forward, not looking back. Nah. Switch back to my move brush. Make this hair kind of come out further on this side. Want her to look more like menacing in general. Which in this case means like having like a lion's mane kind of thing going on. Okay, my enemy's getting all janked up, but that's fine. As long as I get to see what I'm looking for. Let's try messing with the face proportions too a bit. Like I said, in this kind of experimentation, everything is fair game. Move back a few steps before I messed up this arm. Okay. Let's try making these eyes even smaller. The more white of the eye you see for a character, the more scary they are. So having little tiny dots for the eyes means this character's got that, you know, eye of the tiger. She's coming at you. And I like the bulging eye aspect too. Let's see if we can bulge it out a bit. Trying to see if a pointy chin looks a bit better. Usually on girls you want to have a bit of a rounder chin. I don't know if these teeth are actually helping. Having all separate teeth that are so well defined. Why is her nose bleeding? Someone's asking. It's because she's a badass. Let's push the expression a bit further too. Looking at the concept, she's got like these ridges in the middle that are really pronounced. So let's pronounce those a bit more. Let's cut those in again. See if we can make her slightly even a bit meaner. I'm gonna make some larger changes too. See if I like them. You got to think about thick to thin and really pushing that when you can. Also the straights and curves. You see, a lot of the changes I do, I like to just do them to see and then undo right away. Just to change proportions and see if it's helping the character or not. Try making these legs beefier too. See what happens. Alright, I feel this scene needs something more to indicate her presence, her strength, her forward momentum. So let's add some elements. I'm going to append. Let's see if appending works well. Yeah, perfect. Append a sphere. Move it over into place for the back leg. I think this base needs something in general. Make sure my Sculptress Pro mode is on as I work on this base. Interesting. Maybe Dynamesh it first, right? No, Sculptress Pro mode is on. Just doesn't look like it's on. Weird. Alright, it's fine. What I want to do here with this sphere is kind of add a cloud. That's the good thing about having something like Sculptress Pro, is that you can just go ahead and do that. Now it is a base component, so it isn't something that should be overwhelming the character. But it is something that I feel like you need in order to indicate her speed, you know? So it should start right where her foot ends. And also kind of mirror the shape that we need to indicate her direction. Let's go ahead and use the clip curve brush, flatten out the bottom. Another thing we can do is go to the trim adaptive and trim based on existing mesh, which is here. Interesting. I'm going to do it from here. There. Give me the cloud I need, or the base of the cloud that I want. Inflate this end. And now let's just start adding some detail to this cloud. It's a puff of smoke kind of thing, so we want some puffs. And the puffs get bigger as they go back further back. Adds more to the cartoony feel of it as well. You can go in with your dam standard and cut in these shapes too. And these are not circular puffs of smoke. They're all coming from a central point. So they should all lead back to there. They're kind of like teardrop shapes. This is what you've got to think about every extra element that you're adding to your scene. Does it help convey the story? Does it help me tell the story that I want? In this case, the story is her speed. Smoke's rising up, so it's not curling down ever. It's always rising up. And we'll make it feel more smoky in a little bit. The first step is to just find that base shape of it. So that's one element that we can add to make this seem a bit better, more directional. And we want these puffs of smoke to get bigger as they go back in space. And probably be smaller over here. Turn off Sculptress Pro for a second. Just pinch it all together. It's all about putting the right emphasis on the right syllable. You heard me. Boom. There we go. Another thing I like to do, and a lot of people don't do this, but I like to mess around with the twist brush. Let me see if I can find the right name of it. Spiral. There we go. This spiral brush is a very quick way to add the kind of life that you need in a lot of this stuff. But to use the spiral brush effectively, you have to use it very minimally and really choose how you're going to, which direction you're going to do. So you have to hold Alt in order to do that. There we go. Gives the feeling of like billowing smoke moving away from where our character was. You definitely can't overdo the spiral brush. But the only way to do it is by trying it. Alright, pretty happy with how this is turning out. I'm going to keep messing with it later. Let's try to move on and add some other elements too, to really emphasize the speed at which she's coming. Coming at you. I might change up the base too. I don't know, it just doesn't feel like as explosive as I want it to feel. The idea at first of tilting it over made sense, and having this kind of base where she's coming up at you, but I don't know if it reads as well as I want it to from all angles. Another thing I can add is debris from the dents that she makes over here. Another way to add a primitive right where you need it is to go to the Aiman primitives brush and insert it right where you need it. So I've just added a sphere here, and I want to basically turn it not into a puff of cloud, but more into sharp, jaggy debris because of the force of her stepping down onto this base. Let's see how we can do that. A few different ways. Use the H polish brush to sharpen it up. You can use dime standard holding Alt to create sharp creases. And go back to the snake hook. See if we can extract a little bit more smaller ones. Let me solo this out so I can see what I'm looking at. There we go. This can do a couple of things for us. It can add even more strength to the print, give an even larger area for the base to mount into, and lets us shrink the legs a bit, you know, scale-wise. Let's see about having some fun color with it too. Turn off Z-Add mode when you color. I'll definitely have to do a bit more painting on this too. in order to really push it to where I want it to be. Now this yellow detritus should probably be something blue or gray. Maybe, to indicate the base shattering a bit. You gotta make it harder than it is right now. It's just kind of soft mush at the moment. Feels like it's a wet surface that she's rollerblading on at the moment. I don't want that feeling. You know, I do have some good reference for what I have in mind here, now that I think about it. Because there was something posted to ZBrush Central recently which I really liked in this regard. Let me see. I'm going to make it yellowish orange again. Looks like a banana peel right now, which is not ideal, but it's funnier. Let's see if I can pull that up. Thanks, Kyle. I just got the notification that you pushed the feed to Facebook as well. I'll share that link. Double check if anyone's saying anything. Hey, Shane Olson. Good to see you, man. Thanks, Kyle. Okay, let me lower this down. Okay, perfect. All right, so, good. Online on Facebook now. All right, let's see. Let me see if I can pull up that reference I'm talking about. Why is it when you always want to find something to show people that it's hard to find? There we go. Let's see, go to this page. All right, so here's a sculpt by Rodrigue Prelier of Terry Bogard from King of Fighters, and I really like what's happening here. The force of Terry's power geyser is just, exploding it forward. I'm a big fan of this game. Back in the day, I did my own version of this. See if I can even pull that up. Yep, there's mine. So there's the sculpt I did. Oh god, this must have been like almost 10 years ago now. This is ZBrush 2 or 3. But I don't want it to look flame-like like this power geyser. I like the way Rodriguez handled his sharp edges exploding from the ground, a lot of debris, and then building up into the flames. So mine just kind of fizzled up, like melted up almost, you know, kind of sculpting without a base. Now, looking at his, I kind of know what I want to do with mine, have a little bit of debris. So, guys, always look for reference, seriously. It's like the #1 rule of being a 3D artist these days, or ever. It was always a big thing. Alright, so, no more banana peeling. What I want to do is have clear sharp points and sharp ends, and even have some debris building into this. So I want all of this forced to be very straight and sharp to contrast with the cloud in the back. Completely different kind of element. You can even go with damn standard and then just make some sharp lines. Find the edges with H polish and trim. And I'll add some debris bits into this too. Still on step 1, which is laying it in. Then I'll have some room to work with it. Better already. See what a little bit of reference can do? Using H polish here, and you can see how quickly that adds that sharpness that I wanted. Let's make this white as well, so I can see what I'm doing. And we're going to need to add bits of debris in here. So we can go add some of the primitives, spheres, and I'm going to use a really quick technique to shape them, which is to just use a color spray on a standard brush and just really just jank it up really quickly. So this will look more like bits and pieces of the ground that are coming up, being tossed up, so to speak. And I can re-emphasize that by coloring them blue. So I can split this and then match the color. Then duplicate it a few times. Move it around a bit. Just adding more debris. And reshaping it as I move it too. Might look actually kind of cool at the ends. Have some at the ends of these, have some at the middle points. Just breaking it up. And like I said, you guys don't want any parallels. Like these two are going way too parallel to each other. So I'm going to move this one down. In. Maybe have duplicate it again. Move it up over to here. Maybe change the shape of this one to be a bit sharper too. Use my H polish again. Want this to feel like a bit of the pavement, you know? So you got to hit it with H polish from a few different angles. Even trim dynamic maybe. When in doubt, change the shapes. That'll help really quickly differentiate them from each other. And adding these little fun elements, I feel, is just going to help convey this a lot better. Convey the speed, the dynamism I want, the movement. And you can always go in and touch up the print, remove detail where you added too much, soften things up, harden things up. All the clothes should really be helping emphasize the movement and the directional flow. Maybe the mouth should too. You know, kind of like just really emphasizing that she's moving in this direction. Like her jaw can't even keep up with her speed. Her nose should be pointing squarely in the direction she's going, though. And giving her a bit more pointy nose is going to make her more direction-oriented. Like, oh, I'm going that way. Very clearly. So I think this was a good amount of playing around for this character today. Thinking about how I'm going to readdress it when I come back to it. You know, especially if you look at where it came from. Let me merge all these bits down. So we started looking like this. And then we ended like that. Just kind of pushing it in every direction. I might even do this again. You know, just really see about how I can make this even more aggressive, more dynamic. I like the base idea too, just adding stuff to the base to make it more forward momentum, to add more forward momentum. adding a bit more musculature so the character feels stronger. Yeah, thinking of like, you know, having junk sculpts sometimes is the way you can find your voice of this thing. Shrink these guys down so they're not so prominent. Anyways, that is past 10 o'clock. I think this was a good solid session, and eventually you'll see me finish this character and then print it out and prep it for my class. In the meanwhile, you know, just thanks for tuning in to this week's ZBrush stream, and we'll see what fun project I can come up with you guys next time. I might start a character from scratch starting next week, so you guys can see my process from beginning to end. Let's see. All right, cool, perfect. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. Thanks for joining me. See you next time.